All right, welcome back to Musicians Edition. Today we're in our Mallets half of our Essential Elements book again, and we're looking at number 57, Ode to Joy. So again, like we want to look at every time that we come across a new piece, key signature, time signature, right? We see our time signature is 4/4, so we've got 4 beats in every measure, and we're counting by the quarter note, right? And then we see that our key signature has a B flat and an E flat, which tells us the key is B flat major, right? So we're thinking the same collection of notes that we use for our B flat major scale here, right? So every time we see a B, which is the middle line of treble clef, it's going to be flat. Every time we see an E, which is the top space of the treble clef here, we're going to play an E flat, okay? So when we look at the first little chunk of this piece, right, again, we have to make sticking choices in every piece that we play on mallets. We have to decide which hands are going to play which notes, right? And we, of course, want to write those in so that we can practice it and perform it the same way every single time and not have to make those choices more than once, right? So when we look through here, we can go a couple of different directions here, right? If you notice, we're kind of moving up and down a B flat major scale here, mostly in quarter notes, right? So we have D, D, E flat, F, F, E flat, D, C, B flat, C, D, D, C, right? That's our first little chunk there, the first 4 measures. We could alternate that. It seems like it would probably work okay. We could also probably play a couple of the notes on the same hand when we have repeated notes, right? Things to think about when you're making those choices, tempo, right? How fast the notes are moving, or rhythm, how fast the notes are going by is one thing that you want to consider. If multiple notes on the same hand is going to be something that makes sense at a certain speed. And then also accuracy is the other consideration we want to be thinking about, right? Typically, if we can play the same notes on the same hand, we're going to be a little bit more accurate, right? One, because we don't have to move another hand to that note, but the other thing is we can be moving our other hand to the next note while we're playing those couple of notes on that one hand or the other. So when we look at this piece, we could play the 2 Ds with one hand, right, and then we would play E flat with the left, F with the right, and then we have another F, and we could play that with our right hand again, and then E flat, D, C. The 2 B flats could be with the right hand, B flat, C, D, and then D again with the right, C with the left. That seems like it would work pretty well to me. Let's try it, see if we like it. So pretty much what we're getting at here is every time that we have the same note 2 times in a row, we're going to play it with the same hand that played it the first time is also going to play it the second time. Let's try it that way and see if we like it. 1, 2, ready, go. Right, that feels pretty comfortable to me. Mostly, it's just kind of lucky how the piece is laid out that when I play those doubles, they're just kind of line up well to where each one of the double stickings is going to be on my right hand, which is my strong hand, and so I like that. We could also try it alternating. Seems to me at first glance that alternating would work pretty well. So let's try alternating everything. We're just going to start on the right hand, and every note is the next hand plays the next note, okay? So here's the alternating version. Let's try it out and see if we like it. 2, ready, go. Okay, that feels fairly comfortable. I think the double sticking version feels a little bit more comfortable to me. And the reason is, like we talk about often here, that we typically want our right hand to play the highest note and our left hand to play the lowest note in any given passage so that our hands don't have to pass each other. Just because that makes it a little more tricky, right? Sometimes it's going to happen, it's inevitable. But if we can avoid it, I like to avoid it, just because our accuracy will tend to go down if we have to cross our hands over one another, or the likelihood of hitting one mallet against the other or something like that, right? So if we play our double sticking, most of the time our right hand is playing the higher notes in the passage, right? It doesn't always work out that way. In this passage, there are times where your left hand is going to have to go up above your right hand, but your right hand can be scooting out of the way to the next note. So I think it works pretty well. So I'm going to play the double version, the double sticking version of this piece today. Again, these are just choices you have to make based on what's most comfortable to you. You know, you can use some of the guidelines that we talk about here to make those choices. It doesn't always have to be that way. You know, sometimes if it feels more comfortable to you to play it alternating or to play it double sticking or whatever, that's totally fine, right? The exception to that, if you look over on the other page, would be like in number 53 or number 54, right? The sticking is written in for you. So you typically want to use the printed sticking if you have one, right? But if you don't, then it's up to you and you can use whatever is most comfortable for you, all right? So I'm going to play the double sticking version of this again. Of course, we want to write that in so we remember which decision we made, right? And we don't necessarily have to write in every single note. But if you glance at number 53 and 54, again, every single note, the sticking is written in for you. But usually when we write in stickings, we only need checkpoints, right? We just need to write in the ones that are kind of different, right? So for me, if I'm going to play the double sticking version of this, I'm just going to write in the two rights. Every time that I'm repeating a note on one hand, I'm just going to write in that one, right? So the first two notes are going to be rights, and then the two Fs at the end of measure 1, beginning of measure 2, I'm going to put in rights there, two rights, right? An R above each note. Measure 3, same thing again on those B flats. I'm going to write two Rs over the top of those, and then two Rs over the two Ds at the end of measure 3 and the half note at the beginning of measure 4, okay? So I don't have to write in every single one. That would take a little while, and then also it would kind of jumble up the page. I'm just going to write in the ones that are like different, the ones where I need a little heads up on the sticking changing at that point, okay? So that's the sticking we'll go with there. If you look then ahead from where we just stopped after the half note C, which takes us to measure 5, we have the same phrase again, right? 5, 6, 7, and 8 is the same as measure 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what you probably want to do is whichever sticking you wrote in for the first 4 measures, go ahead and transfer that to measure 5, 6, 7, and 8. That way you make sure you play those two passages the same way. But we don't necessarily need to practice it by itself because it's the same as measure 1 through 4, and we just practice that, right? But what would be a good idea is if we go ahead and practice playing both of them together so we get used to what it feels like to play that passage back to back 2 times, okay? So let's start at the beginning and we'll play ourselves all the way to measure 9, okay? Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay. Now I did make a little mistake there when I was telling you it's exactly the same, right? It's exactly the same until we get to measure 8, and then instead of 2 Ds in a row going from measure 7 into measure 8 like it is from measure 3 to measure 4, right? We go from D down to C in measure 8, right? So we wouldn't use the 2 rights there. So I need to write that in for myself that I know that when I get to measure 8, I'm going to play the C on the left hand, right? Instead of on the right hand that I did going from 3 to 4, since measure 8 and measure 4 are different, even though everything else surrounding them is exactly the same, okay? So that's measure 1 through 8. Once that's comfortable, then all we have to do then at measure 9 is rest for 4 measures. Again, we're going to be really focused about our counting there and keeping really solid time. When we play it with a group, we're going to make sure we're listening to everybody else so we can stay right with them and keep time right with them. So we make sure we come back in right on the money. We get to measure 13, and you notice it looks really, really similar, right? So the phrase we play at 13 is going to be exactly the same as the phrase we played from measure 5 through 8, right? Until we get to measure 16, where it gets a little bit different, right? So if you notice, 13 is the same as 5, 14 is the same as measure 6, 15 is the same as measure 7. The first note of 16 is the same as measure 8, right? The half note C is the same as measure 8. And then we have a different note on beat 3. The second half note there is a different note from what we have on beat 3 of measure 8, right? So we need to make sure that we're heads up at that point and make sure that we're ready to play not what we're used to playing in the first chunk of the piece, but something a little bit different at that point, okay? So you'll notice after that C that we play there, we jump all the way up to an F. Now, if we're playing the double sticking that we've been playing, that C is going to land on a left hand, which is perfect because that frees up our right hand to be able to get to F during those 2 beats of C, right? So if we land on F with if we land on C with our left hand, then we can be moving to F with our right hand and be ready to go there, right? And then you notice the whole note after the F is a B flat, which we can play with our left hand again. And that lines up perfectly to be having our right hand play the higher notes in the passage and our left hand play the lowest notes in the passage, right? So it's going to be C with the left, F with the right, B flat with the left, all right? So when I play C with my left hand, I'm moving my right hand to F. When I play F with my right hand, I'm moving my left hand to B flat. Okay? And then the last 4 notes of the piece in the last 2 measures are all B flats. So we can alternate them, we can play them with the same hand, whatever's more comfortable. At the tempo of this piece, we're going to be able to play repeated quarter notes with the same hand. So whatever's comfortable there, if you want to alternate it, fine. If you want to play it all in the same hand, totally fine. The main thing we have to make sure we do there in the last 2 bars is play the rhythm correctly, right? So we have 1, rest, 3, 4, 1. Okay? All right. So now let's take it from measure 13 all the way to the end of the piece. Again, when we get to that measure of half notes, we're going to make sure that we're really focused and ready to play a different second half note than what we played in measure 8 or what we played in measure 4. Okay? Here we go. From 13 all the way to the end, we're going to start on our right hand, and I'm going to play the double sticking version of this. Okay? Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, so that's the second half. So now let's go all the way back to the beginning. We're gonna play this whole thing all the way through, and then when we get to measure 9, I'm gonna count through the rests out loud just so that you can stay right with me. It's helpful when you're practicing by yourself to go ahead and count those rests out loud, and then work on then counting those only in your head and not with your voice. But when you're just playing by yourself, it's a nice thing to practice it just to count out loud. That way you know that you're not forgetting to count because you're having to say the counting, right? So then later on you'll know that you'll be able to think it. Okay? Here we go. All the way through the piece from the beginning. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so that's number 57 in our Mallets book here. And as you're practicing this, again, remember to make those sticking choices. Think about what's most comfortable to you. Think about what's before and what's after each note in how you decide to play those stickings, and then write those in so you do it the same way every time. Make sure, of course, to be breaking the piece down in chunks, just like we do on these videos, to be sure that you're not trying to digest too much music all at once, right? So break it down into small pieces and then slowly put those small pieces back together until you have the whole piece ready to go. All right? So happy practicing, and I will see you next time.
This lesson is brought to you by the Musician's Edition practice book. Make goals and keep track of progress throughout the whole year. When you're done with this video lesson, don't forget to mark this practice time in your Musician's Edition practice book. Now back to the video.